The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. 300 species watched as the human delegation walked through the massive doors. They had expected soldiers. They had expected weapons. They had expected the savage race that had destroyed the Krexan invasion fleet to come with fire in their eyes and blood on their hands. Instead, Ambassador Sarah Chen walked forward in a simple blue dress. Her gray hair was pulled back neatly. Her face was calm. She smiled at the alien faces around her, and some of them flinched. They had seen humans smile in battle footage. They knew what those teeth could do. "Distinguished members of the council," Sarah said. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the hall. "I am honored to stand before you today. Earth comes in peace." High Counselor Vexthar, a tall being with purple scales and 4 arms, leaned forward on his chair. His translator crackled as he spoke. "Ambassador Chen, your species has been observed for many cycles. You have shown great violence. Your history is filled with war. You killed 30,000 Krexan soldiers in a single engagement. How can you speak of peace?" Sarah nodded slowly. She had expected this question. Every species asked it. "High Counselor, may I tell you a story?" Vexthar waved one of his hands. "Speak." "When I was young, my grandmother lived through something called the Second World War. Millions of humans died. Cities burned. My grandmother lost her parents, her brothers, her home. She walked across half a continent with nothing but the clothes on her back." Sarah paused. "Do you know what she did after the war ended?" The council was silent. "She became a teacher. She taught children from the countries that had killed her family. She taught them to read. She taught them mathematics. She taught them that they were worthy of love and knowledge." Sarah's voice grew stronger. "That is what humans do. We fight our wars, yes. We are very good at fighting, but after the fighting ends, we build, we heal, we forgive." A delegate from the Threll Collective, a species of small, furry beings known for their nervousness, raised a tentacle. "But the Krexan attacked your colony. They killed 10,000 of your people. How can you speak of forgiveness after such destruction?" Sarah turned to face the Threll delegate. "Because anger is easy, hate is easy. Any creature with a brain can feel those things. But to look at someone who has hurt you and say, 'I will not let this define us,' that takes strength. That is the warrior's heart that humans carry, even when we wear diplomats' clothes." Behind Sarah stood her delegation. There was Dr. James Okonkwo, a tall man from Nigeria who specialized in xenobiology. There was Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka, officially present as a security advisor, but truly there because she had survived the Krexan attack on New Melbourne. There was Father Thomas Murphy, a priest who had requested to join the delegation when he heard about the mission. None of them looked like warriors. James wore glasses and carried a tablet. Yuki was small and quiet, standing at attention but not threatening anyone. Thomas had kind eyes and kept his hands folded peacefully. But the council did not understand what they were seeing. James had lost his wife in the attack. He had spent 3 days digging through rubble with his bare hands, hopping to find her alive. He had not found her. Now he was here to establish medical exchange programs so that no species would suffer what his people had suffered. Yuki had killed 47 Krexan soldiers during the Battle of New Melbourne. She had done it to protect children hiding in a shelter beneath the city. She had not slept well since. She was here because she knew that the only way to stop more battles was to talk. Thomas had given last rites to hundreds of dying soldiers, both human and Krexan. He had held the hand of a Krexan captain as it died, praying for its soul even though he did not know if it had one. He was here because he believed that all thinking beings deserved compassion. High Counselor Vexthar studied the humans carefully. He had lived for 200 cycles. He had seen many species come before the council. Most came with demands. Some came with threats. A few came with submission, hopping to be protected by the great powers of the galaxy. The humans came with something he had never seen before. "Ambassador Chen," Vexthar said slowly, The Crexan Empire has requested that this council condemn Earth for its defensive actions. They claim your species committed war crimes during the battle. Sarah's face did not change. We are aware of their claims. They say your soldiers continued fighting after the battle was decided. They say your forces showed no mercy. With respect, High Counselor, mercy is a complicated thing. Sarah stepped forward. When the Crexan attacked New Melbourne, they began by destroying our hospitals. Their first targets were not military. They were places of healing. They killed the sick and the wounded and the people trying to save them. The council shifted uncomfortably. Some of them had heard rumors about the attack. Others had chosen not to ask questions. Our soldiers fought hard because they had no choice, Sarah continued. When your enemy targets your doctors and your children, you cannot afford to hold back. Every human who fought in that battle knew they might die. They accepted that because the alternative was worse. She paused. But I am not here to justify our actions. I am here to prevent them from ever being necessary again. Vexthar's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of surprise in his species. What are you proposing? A peace treaty, not just with the Crexan but with the entire council. Earth wants to join your community of worlds. We want to trade with you, learn from you, share what we know. We have much to offer. Sarah gestured to James. Our medicine has concepts that might interest your physicians. We have developed treatments for genetic diseases that work across multiple species. James stepped forward and bowed to the council. We call it compassionate medicine. We believe that the purpose of healing is not just to fix the body, but to honor the person. Every patient deserves dignity. We also have our art, Sarah said. Our music, our stories, our philosophy. Humans have spent thousands of years thinking about what it means to be alive, to be conscious, to be part of something larger than ourselves. These are gifts we wish to share. A delegate from the Zorn Federation, a species known for their logic and calculation, spoke up. What do you want in return? Sarah smiled. It was a genuine smile full of warmth, friendship, understanding, a chance to prove that we are not the monsters our reputation suggests. We know how the galaxy sees us. We know they call us the Death Worlders, the fighting species, the dangerous ones. We accept that our planet shaped us into something fierce, but we choose how to use that fierceness. We choose to use it in service of peace. The council hall was quiet for a long moment. Then, from the back of the room, a voice called out. I wish to speak. Everyone turned. Walking through the crowd was a Crexan officer. His gray exoskeleton was scarred in many places. One of his eyes had been replaced with a mechanical implant. He moved with a limp, leaning on a staff for support. Sarah recognized him instantly. She had seen his face in intelligence reports. This was Commander Krath, the survivor of the Battle of New Melbourne, the only Crexan officer to escape the human counterattack. I have come to give testimony, Krath said. His voice was harsh, translated through a mechanical device on his chest. I have come to tell the council what the humans did when they defeated us. Sarah felt her heart begin to beat faster. This was the moment everything could fall apart. If Krath spoke of human brutality, if he described the battle as a massacre, the council might turn against Earth forever. But she stood her ground. She had nothing to hide. Krath limped past her without acknowledging her presence. He climbed the steps to the speaker's platform and turned to face the assembly. My fleet attacked New Melbourne expecting easy victory, he said. We had been told the humans were primitive, emotional, weak. We were wrong. The council listened in absolute silence. They fought like nothing I have ever seen. Every soldier we killed, 2 more took their place. They used weapons we had never encountered. They adapted to our tactics within hours. By the end of the first day, we knew we had made a terrible mistake. Krath paused, his mechanical eye whirred as it focused on Sarah. But I did not come here to speak of their fighting. I came to speak of what happened after. The survivors of Commander Krath's fleet had numbered only 300. Their ships were destroyed. Their supplies were gone. They drifted in space, waiting to die. The humans had won completely. There was no reason to show mercy. But mercy came anyway. The human ships approached us, Krath said. We prepared to fight to the death. We activated our self-destruct systems. We would not be taken prisoner. We would not be studied like animals. His voice grew quieter, but the humans did not attack. The council leaned forward. They sent a message, a simple message. It said, "Do you need help?" Sarah remembered that moment. She had not been there, but she had read the reports. Captain Michael Rodriguez had made the decision. His own brother had died in the attack on New Melbourne. He had every reason to want revenge. Instead, he had offered aid. We did not understand, Krath continued. We thought it was a trick. We ignored them, but they did not leave. They stayed near our position, waiting. When our life support began to fail, they sent the message again. We have food. We have medicine. We have room on our ships. If you want to live, we will help you. A murmur ran through the council. I ordered my soldiers to refuse. I told them it was better to die with honor than accept help from the enemy. But my soldiers were young. Many of them were wounded. They wanted to live. Krath's voice cracked slightly. So I made a decision that I thought would shame me forever. I accepted the human offer. Krath turned to face Sarah directly. The humans took us aboard their ships. They treated our wounds. They fed us. They gave us blankets and quiet places to sleep. When some of my soldiers became violent, fighting against the humans who were trying to help them, the humans did not kill them. They restrained them gently and waited for them to calm down. Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. She had not known these details. There was one human, Krath said. A medic, a young female with dark skin and kind eyes. She worked without rest for 3 days treating Krexan soldiers. She learned our biology as she worked, studying our wounds to understand how to heal them. When I asked her why she was helping us, do you know what she said? The council was completely silent. She said, "Because you're hurt, because I can help, because that's what humans do." Krath's mechanical eye made a strange sound, almost like a sob. I have been a soldier for 40 cycles. I have fought in 12 campaigns. I have killed thousands of enemies. I thought I understood war. I thought I understood strength. He shook his head slowly. I was wrong. The humans showed me that true strength is not in the killing. True strength is in choosing not to kill when you have every right to. True strength is healing your enemy because they need help. Sarah stepped forward, Commander Krath. He turned to look at her. I want you to know that the medic you mentioned, her name was Lieutenant Diana Okonkwo. From behind Sarah, James made a small sound. His eyes were wide with shock. She was Dr. Okonkwo's wife, Sarah said gently, the one he lost in the attack. The council gasped. James stood frozen, tears running down his face. She survived the initial attack, Sarah continued. She was among the medical staff who treated the Krexan prisoners. She worked until she collapsed from exhaustion. She died 2 days later from injuries she had been hiding, injuries she received during the attack. She chose to heal others instead of herself. Krath stared at James. For a long moment, no one moved. Then slowly the Krexan commander limped down from the platform. He walked directly toward James. The human doctor did not move away. He did not flinch. Krath stopped in front of him. Your wife saved my life, he said. She saved the lives of many of my soldiers, and we were the ones who killed her. James was silent for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was steady. Diana believed that every life has value. She believed that healing was sacred. She would not want me to hate you. She would want me to understand you, to find peace with you. He took a deep breath. So that is what I will try to do. Krath reached out with one of his clawed hands. It was a gesture unfamiliar to humans, but Sarah had studied Krexan customs. It was an offer of trust, a sign that the hand would not be used as a weapon. James took the hand carefully. His smaller human fingers wrapped around the hard exoskeleton. I am sorry, Krath said. I am sorry for what my people did. I know, James replied. I am sorry for what happened to your soldiers. We started the war. War is started by leaders. Soldiers only do what they are ordered to do. James shook his head. Diana taught me that. She said that hate the war, not the warriors. High Counselor Vexthar watched this exchange with wonder. In all his centuries on the council, he had never seen anything like it. Two enemies, standing face to face, choosing forgiveness over revenge, choosing understanding over anger. Ambassador Chen, he said finally, I believe I understand now. Sarah turned to face him. When Earth sends diplomats, they bring warriors' hearts, the strength to fight for what they believe in, the courage to stand firm in the face of opposition, the determination to never give up. Vexthar's scales shifted to a warm golden color, a sign of respect. And when Earth sends warriors, they bring diplomats' souls, the wisdom to know when fighting is necessary and when it is not, the compassion to heal their enemies, the hope for a better future. Sarah nodded. We are not perfect, High Counselor. We have made terrible mistakes. We have hurt each other and others in ways that can never be undone. But we keep trying. We keep reaching out. We keep believing that tomorrow can be better than today. That, Vexthar said slowly, is perhaps the most dangerous thing about your species. Not your strength, not your weapons, your hope. The council began to murmur. Delegates whispered to each other. Some looked worried, others looked intrigued. Hope is contagious, Vexthar continued. It spreads from one heart to another. If we allow humans into our community, they will share their hope with us. They will make us believe that we can be better, that we can overcome our own darkness. He rose from his chair, his forearms spreading wide. The question before this council is not whether to fear the humans. It is whether we are brave enough to hope with them. The vote took 3 days. Each species had to consult with their home governments. Messages flew across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. Debates raged on 1,000 different worlds. Earth waited. Sarah and her delegation remained in their quarters on the council station. They were treated well, the rooms were comfortable, and the food was adequate if strange. But they were also watched. Guards stood outside their doors at all times. Surveillance systems monitored their every move. They're afraid of us, Yuki said quietly on the second night. She sat by the window looking out at the stars. Even now, even after everything we said, they're afraid. Can you blame them? Thomas replied. He was reading a book, a paper book that he had brought from Earth. Real paper was rare in space, and several aliens had been fascinated by it. We are dangerous. We know we're dangerous. Pretending otherwise would be dishonest. But we're not just dangerous, James said. He had been quiet since the moment with Commander Krath. Now he spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. That's what they don't understand yet. Dangerous things can be useful. Fire is dangerous, but it keeps us warm. Water is dangerous, but it keeps us alive. Sarah nodded. Humans are dangerous, but we can protect. We can build, we can heal. She smiled sadly. Diana understood that better than anyone. James looked away. She would have loved this mission. She always wanted to explore the galaxy. When we first got married, she used to talk about all the species she wanted to study, all the medicines she wanted to learn. She had this dream of finding a cure for every disease, of making the galaxy healthier. She's part of this mission, Sarah said gently. Everything she taught you, everything she believed in, you carry it with you. When you offered your hand to Commander Krath, that was her speaking through you. I hope so, James closed his eyes. I hope she would be proud. She would be, Yuki said. Her voice was firm. Trust me, I knew her too. She would be so proud. Thomas put down his book and looked at his companions. Do you know what I find most interesting about this whole situation? The Council is afraid of our violence. They see us as warriors first, but we see ourselves as builders, as healers, as dreamers. That's because we know what we're capable of, Sarah said. We've lived through our own history. We've seen what happens when humans choose destruction over creation. The wars, the suffering, the terrible things we've done to each other." She shook her head. "Other species see our violent potential and assume it defines us. We know better. We know that violence is our shadow, not our soul." "So what is our soul?" Yuki asked quietly. "If not violence, what makes us human?" Sarah thought for a moment. "Stubbornness," she said finally. "We refuse to give up. We refuse to accept that things can't get better. We look at impossible situations and say, 'I can fix this.' We face our fears and move forward anyway. That's what makes us human, not our strength but our refusal to stop trying." On the third day, the council reconvened. The Great Hall was even more crowded than before. Word had spread about the humans and their strange mix of violence and compassion. Species from the far edges of the galaxy had sent observers. Journalists from a dozen worlds were recording the proceedings. High Counselor Vexthar called for order. "The votes have been counted," he announced. "The council has reached a decision." Sarah stood perfectly still. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her face remained calm. Whatever happened, she would accept it with grace. On the matter of Earth's request to join the galactic community, the vote is as follows. Vexthar paused. 217 in favor, 73 opposed, 10 abstaining. Sarah felt her knees go weak. They had won. They had actually won. "Earth is hereby accepted as a provisional member of the galactic community," Vexthar continued. "A probationary period of 10 cycles will apply, during which Earth's behavior will be closely monitored. If humans prove themselves worthy of full membership, that status will be granted." Cheers erupted from part of the hall. Other sections remained silent, watching with uncertainty or outright hostility, but the decision was made. Sarah stepped forward. "High Counselor, on behalf of Earth, I accept these terms with gratitude and humility. We will not disappoint you." "See that you don't, Ambassador." Vexthar's tone was serious, but there was warmth in his eyes. "The galaxy is watching." From across the hall, Commander Krath raised his staff in salute. It was a warrior's gesture of respect. Sarah returned it with a bow, a diplomat's response. In that moment, she thought she understood the title of this mission. When Earth sent diplomats, they brought warriors' hearts, the strength to fight for peace. And when Earth sent warriors, they brought diplomats' souls, the wisdom to choose peace over fighting. The humans were both things at once. They could not separate the two. And maybe, just maybe, that was their greatest gift to the galaxy. The first year of Earth's provisional membership was difficult. Not everyone in the galaxy was happy with the Council's decision. Several species openly opposed human integration. The Krexan Empire, despite Commander Krath's testimony, remained hostile. Trade negotiations were complicated by mutual suspicion. Cultural misunderstandings led to incidents that threatened to undo all of Sarah's work. But the humans persisted. Dr. James Okonkwo established the first interspecies medical exchange program on a neutral station. He trained alien doctors in human techniques and learned their methods in return. Within 6 months, the program had developed 3 new treatments for diseases that had been killing thousands. James worked tirelessly, driven by Diana's memory, determined to honor her sacrifice by saving as many lives as he could. Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka was assigned to a joint military task force, working alongside soldiers from 12 different species to patrol the lawless edges of civilized space. She earned their respect not through violence, but through calm competence and genuine concern for her fellow officers. When a Threll soldier was injured during a pirate attack, Yuki carried him to safety on her back, running through enemy fire without hesitation. The image of a human risking her life for an alien spread across the communication networks, changing minds wherever it was seen. Father Thomas Murphy traveled to worlds where no human had ever set foot. He listened to alien philosophies and shared human wisdom. He found common ground in the most unexpected places. On a planet where the dominant species communicated through color patterns, he learned to express love and compassion through shades of blue and gold. He wrote letters home describing the beauty he found in alien souls, the same longing for meaning, the same fear of death, the same hope for something greater. And Ambassador Sarah Chen continued her work at the council. She spoke. She negotiated. She compromised when she could and stood firm when she couldn't. She made enemies among those who feared change and friends among those who believed in something better. Every day brought new challenges, new crises, new chances to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars. The galaxy slowly began to change. Human music spread through the communication networks. Songs that had been sung on Earth for centuries found new audiences among alien listeners. A Thrall composer created a symphony based on a human lullaby, and it became the most popular piece of music in 3 sectors. The Zorn, who had never understood the concept of music, began studying it as a mathematical phenomenon and discovered emotions they had never known they could feel. Human literature was translated into 1,000 languages. Stories about love and loss and hope and redemption touched hearts that beat in ways completely different from human hearts. A Zorn philosopher wrote a famous essay about how human poetry had taught him to appreciate beauty, something his purely logical species had never understood before. Human food became a delicacy in certain circles. The concept of cooking for pleasure rather than mere sustenance was novel to many species. Restaurants specializing in Earth cuisine opened on dozens of worlds, though the results were often strange by human standards. But the intent was what mattered, the idea that eating could be an expression of culture, of love, of community. But perhaps the most significant change was harder to measure. Species that had been enemies for centuries began talking to each other. Conflicts that had seemed inevitable were resolved through negotiation. The idea that even the worst enemies could become friends, an idea that humans had demonstrated so powerfully, spread through the galaxy like ripples in a pond. "You started something," High Counselor Vexthar told Sarah during a private meeting near the end of her first year. "Something that cannot be stopped." "I didn't start anything," Sarah replied. "I just showed people what humans believe, what we've always believed even when we fail to live up to it." "And what is that?" Sarah thought for a moment. "That tomorrow can be better than today, that enemies can become friends, that the cycle of violence can be broken, that redemption is always possible," she smiled. "That hope is stronger than fear." Vexthar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Your species is very strange, Ambassador Chen." "Thank you, High Counselor." That was not entirely a compliment. "I know, but I'll take it as one anyway." The crisis came in the 2nd year. A rogue faction of the Krexan Empire, soldiers who rejected Commander Krath's new philosophy of peace, launched an attack on a human colony ship carrying 2,000 civilians. The ship was disabled but not destroyed. The colonists were taken hostage. The message was clear: surrender the peace treaty or the hostages would die. The galaxy watched to see how humanity would respond. Many expected war. The humans had shown what they could do when provoked. They could destroy the rogue faction easily, but at the cost of the hostages' lives. It seemed like an impossible situation. Military commanders across the human fleet prepared for battle. Ships were mobilized. Weapons were charged. The Earth government met in emergency session, debating their options. Some argued for immediate attack. Others counseled patience. All agreed that something had to be done. But Sarah Chen did something unexpected. She asked for volunteers. Not soldiers, not warriors. She asked for people willing to talk. 12 humans stepped forward. They were teachers and doctors and artists and priests. They were ordinary people who believed in something extraordinary. They boarded a single unarmed shuttle and flew directly into the heart of enemy territory. The rogues were confused. They had expected bombs and missiles. Instead, they got a dozen unarmed humans asking permission to land. "What is your purpose?" the rogue commander demanded over the communication system. Sarah's voice came back calm and clear. "We want to talk." "We will kill you." "Maybe, but we'd like to talk first." The rogues let them land, perhaps out of curiosity, perhaps out of a strange respect for courage so foolish it seemed almost brave. They had never seen anything like this before. Every species they knew would have responded with force. Only humans would send peacemakers into a war zone. Sarah led her team into the rogue base. They walked past armed soldiers who watched them with weapons ready. They entered a room where the hostages were being held, 2,000 terrified civilians surrounded by enemies. The rogue commander faced Sarah with contempt in his eyes. "You are fools," he said. "You could have attacked us, you could have destroyed us. Instead, you came here to die." "We came here to understand," Sarah replied. "Why did you do this? What do you want?" The commander was silent for a moment. No one had ever asked him that before. "We want our honor back," he said finally. "The peace treaty shamed us. It made us look weak. Our empire was defeated by humans and then we forgave them. We became friends with the species that killed thousands of our soldiers." His voice grew harsh. "That is not acceptable. That is not who we are." Sarah nodded slowly. "I understand." "You understand nothing." "I understand more than you think." Sarah took a step forward. "Humans have felt what you're feeling. We've been defeated. We've been shamed. We've struggled with the idea of forgiving those who hurt us." She paused. "After World War II, many of my people felt the way you feel now. They thought peace with their enemies was shameful. They thought forgiveness was weakness. They wanted revenge, even when revenge would only bring more suffering." The commander's eyes narrowed. "And what happened to them?" "They learned. Slowly, painfully, they learned that there's no shame in peace. There's only shame in refusing to grow, in refusing to become something better." Sarah gestured at the hostages. "These people have done nothing to you. They're just ordinary humans trying to build new lives. Killing them won't restore your honor. It will only add to your shame." "You cannot tell us what honor means." "No, I can't. Only you can decide that." Sarah spread her hands. "But I can tell you what I've learned in my long life. Honor isn't about winning or losing. It's about who you choose to be. The most honorable thing any warrior can do is recognize when the fighting should end." The room was silent. The rogue soldiers watched their commander, waiting for his decision. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the commander lowered his weapon. "You are very strange creatures," he said quietly. "Yes," Sarah agreed, "we are." The commander looked at his soldiers. They looked back at him uncertain. Whatever they had expected, it wasn't this. "Perhaps," the commander said slowly, "there are forms of strength we do not yet understand." He gave an order. The hostages were released. As the humans left the base, the rogue soldiers watched them go. Some still held weapons ready. Others had lowered them. A few, just a few, looked thoughtful, as if seeing something they had never seen before. Sarah did not look back. She walked with her head high and her heart pounding. She had gambled everything on the belief that even the hardest hearts could be reached. This time she had won. But she knew it wouldn't always work. She knew that sometimes diplomacy failed. Sometimes warriors had to fight. That was the nature of the galaxy, perhaps the nature of all intelligent life. But every time peace won, even in the smallest way, it made the next peace easier. Every heart that opened made other hearts more likely to open. Hope was contagious, just as Vexthar had said. And humans were very, very good at spreading hope. The years continued to pass, and with each one, humanity's presence in the galaxy grew stronger. New colonies were established on worlds that welcomed human settlers. Trade routes expanded, bringing prosperity to species that had known only poverty. Scientific partnerships produced discoveries that benefited everyone. The galaxy was changing, slowly but surely, and humans were at the center of that change. Commander Krath became one of humanity's most important allies. He traveled across the Krexan Empire, telling his story to any who would listen. Some rejected his message. Others were intrigued. A few were inspired to seek out humans themselves to see if the stories were true. James Okonkwo's medical programs grew into a network of hospitals and training centers spanning dozens of worlds. He never remarried. He never stopped missing Diana. But he found purpose in his work, in the lives he saved, in the future he was helping to build. Every patient he healed was a tribute to her memory. Yuki Tanaka rose through the ranks to become an admiral. She commanded the first truly integrated fleet in galactic history, humans and aliens serving together as equals. Her officers loved her for her fairness, her competence, and her unwavering dedication to protecting the innocent. The warrior who had killed 47 enemies had become a guardian of peace. Thomas Murphy founded an interfaith dialogue organization that brought together spiritual leaders from across the galaxy. They did not all agree. They did not all understand each other, but they talked, and they listened, and they found common ground in their shared search for meaning. His letters home became famous, published and translated into hundreds of languages, inspiring millions who had never met him. And Sarah Chen continued her work, year after year, until she was too old to continue. 10 years passed. Earth's probationary period ended. The Council voted again, and this time, the result was overwhelming. Earth became a full member of the galactic community with the support of over 90% of member species. Sarah Chen retired from diplomatic service. She was old now, over 80 years by human standards, but she had lived to see her life's work completed. Earth was part of something larger. Humanity had proven itself worthy. At her retirement ceremony, representatives from hundreds of species came to honor her. Commander Krath, now an ambassador himself, gave a speech about the human woman who had shown him what true strength meant. Dr. James Okonkwo spoke about his wife Diana and how her spirit lived on in the medical programs that had saved millions of lives. Admiral Yuki Tanaka talked about the joint military actions that had brought peace to troubled regions. Father Thomas Murphy blessed the assembly in 12 different languages, asking for wisdom and compassion for all thinking beings. Sarah stood before them all, smaller and grayer than she had been when she first entered the council hall, but no less strong. "When I was young," she said, "I read a story about a diplomat who walked alone into enemy territory and spoke the words that ended a war. I thought that was very romantic. I wanted to be that diplomat." The audience laughed softly. "Now I know the truth. No one ends a war alone. Peace is built by thousands of hands, millions of hearts, countless acts of courage and compassion. The diplomat who walks into enemy territory is only the beginning. The real work is done by the teachers and doctors and artists and ordinary people who choose, every day, to build instead of destroy." She looked out at the assembly, the hundreds of alien faces, the multitude of species that had once feared humanity and now called them friends. "Earth sent me to you as a diplomat. I brought a warrior's heart because that is what humans are. We fight for what we believe in, we never give up. We face our fears and overcome them," she smiled. "But I also brought something else. Hope, faith, the belief that you, all of you, are capable of greatness, that the galaxy can be a place of peace and wonder and joy." She paused. "And when Earth sent warriors to fight for that peace, people like Admiral Tanaka, like the soldiers who defended our colonies, they brought diplomats' souls. They knew when to fight and when to stop. They treated their enemies with dignity. They chose mercy whenever they could." Sarah looked at the faces before her. Some were smiling, some were crying, some were simply listening, taking in her words. "That is humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not our strength, though we have strength. Not our technology, though we have technology. Our gift is the understanding that warriors and diplomats are not opposites. They are the same thing, viewed from different angles. The best warrior is one who fights for peace. The best diplomat is one who will fight when necessary. She raised her hand in a gesture that had become familiar throughout the galaxy, the human wave of farewell and friendship. I am proud of what we have built together. I am proud of the galaxy we are creating, and I am proud to have been a small part of it. The applause began slowly and built to a roar. Species that had never applauded before learned to clap their hands or tentacles or manipulate their appendages. The sound filled the great hall like thunder. Saracen smiled. And somewhere she knew, Diana Okonkwo was smiling too. The story was not over. It would never be over. Every generation of humans would face new challenges, new enemies, new chances to choose between war and peace. Some would choose wrong. Some would fail. That was the nature of being human. But the hope would remain. The belief that tomorrow could be better than today, the knowledge that enemies could become friends, the faith that even the hardest hearts could be reached. When Earth sent diplomats, they brought warriors' hearts. And when Earth sent warriors, they brought diplomats' souls. That was humanity's gift to the stars. Years later, long after Sarah Chen had passed away, a young human student visited the Great Hall of the Galactic Council for the first time. She had read about the humans' first appearance there, the fear, the suspicion, the moment when everything had changed. She wanted to see the place where history had been made. The hall was different now. Human artwork hung on the walls alongside pieces from 100 other worlds. The air was filled with a dozen different scents, comfortable and welcoming. Delegates from species that had never spoken to each other before walked together, discussing trade agreements and scientific collaborations and cultural exchanges. The student found a quiet corner and sat down, looking around with wonder. An elderly Crexan approached her. His exoskeleton was gray with age, and he leaned heavily on a staff. She recognized him from her history classes, Commander Krath, the warrior who had become a peacemaker. "You are new here," he said. "Yes, Ambassador. This is my first visit." Krath sat down beside her. "I was here when your kind first came to this hall. I was afraid of you. I thought you were monsters." "And now?" Krath was silent for a moment. "Now I know the truth. Humans are not monsters. You are not angels either. You are simply people capable of great cruelty and great kindness, capable of destroying worlds and building them, capable of hate and love in equal measure. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Krath smiled, a human gesture he had learned long ago. "It is the only thing. It is what makes you, you, and it is what makes you worth knowing." The student considered this. "Ambassador, what do you think the future holds, for humans, for the galaxy?" "I am old," Krath replied. "I have seen many things. I have seen wars end and peace begin. I have seen enemies become friends. I have seen the galaxy change in ways I never imagined possible." He looked at the student with his one organic eye and his one mechanical one. "The future holds whatever we choose to make of it. That is the lesson your species taught us. The future is not fixed. It is not determined by our past. It is created by our choices, moment by moment, day by day." He stood up slowly, leaning on his staff. "Your people brought warriors' hearts to our halls of diplomacy. You brought the strength to fight for what you believed in, but you also brought hope. You brought the belief that things could be different. That belief changed everything." He began to walk away, then paused and looked back. "Keep believing," he said. "That is the most powerful thing any of us can do. Keep believing that tomorrow can be better than today." The student watched him go, thinking about his words. Then she stood up and walked out into the galaxy, a galaxy that her ancestors had fought for, hoped for, and ultimately helped to build. The story continued, as all stories do, passed from generation to generation, changed by each telling but never losing its essential truth. When Earth sent diplomats, they brought warriors' hearts. And when Earth sent warriors, they brought diplomats' souls. That was the gift. That was the promise. That was the hope. and the galaxy would never be the same.